Welcome to Geeks and Jocks, a podcast that focuses on video games, film, television, and sports. And now, for the person who is in charge of this podcast, here is Ryan Sullivan.
Hi, and welcome back. This is Geeks and Jocks, and we are ready for episode 8. And what you're hearing is a much cleaner voice because I bought a Logitech headset for like $25 and trying out the features of it and using the microphone and the speakers via the headset. I do think this is going to be much better, and you'll be able to hear this a lot clearer than the one microphone that I was using since October, and it's going to be pretty good. So getting into this episode, definitely the first thing that comes to my mind is the temperatures, because over the weekend it was heavy snow. Well, not heavy snow, but snowing. Got probably about, I'd say, a foot of snow, and it was some freezing rain in it, and the cold temperature came into play because this is recording on Monday the 21st. It was cold the night before, Sunday, heading into overnight, and it was reaching into the negative temperatures. Even like by the time it was like Sunday evening, it was down in the single digits, so it was pretty brutal, but not anything too bad. It's just more so the wind chill factors, because a lot of it is like it was going to be windy a little bit, not strong, but quite a bit of wind, like 15, 16 mile an hour winds. And with that, it makes it feel like it's like what, like negative 20, and that's pretty brutal. And I know some people that live up in like North Dakota or South Dakota, and that's way worse than what we get here. So yeah, kind of feeling cold right now, but shouldn't be too bad because the week should get better in terms of temperature. But with that, those football games, yeah. Obviously the one that's being talked about and will keep being talked about is that New Orleans Saints and Los Angeles Rams game, which it seemed like the polar opposite of what happened last week, where New Orleans was down 14-0 to Philadelphia. They come back and win 20-14. That was the effect of the LA Rams, where they were down 13-0. They do a fake punt, and the outcome became pretty apparent that it was heading towards Los Angeles' favor, and it wound up being that way. But that one call late in the game, I'll tell you what, that has got to be one of the worst calls. Like, it's nice to see the Rams make it to the Super Bowl, but because of that non-call, that should have been the game. It really should have, because it was the guy was pretty much getting on the receiver, and for them to not call it, it was ruined. It ruined an otherwise decent game for the NFC Championship game. Now the AFC Championship game, I think there's going to be some calls and stuff, and I'll tell you what, there's going to be some talk about maybe overtime rules being tweaked to give both teams a chance. Now some of them plays, I think the refs did a pretty good job of calling it. But some of the stuff, I feel like the muffed punt, I don't think it should have been overturned. But some of them catches, I think the way they were holding the ball, they looked like they held the ball and caught it. That second half was like a very entertaining second half, despite my disdain for the New England Patriots. But I'm kind of leaning towards, yeah, we should have it play like a college football game, but the way they have the rule, like, it's similar to what they have with you kick a field goal, whoever wins, whoever scores next after both field goals are made wins. I think they got to go that route a little bit, because because Patrick Mahomes really had the performance of the season, coming back and throwing a few touchdowns to keep them going, and Damian Williams' touchdown with 2 minutes to go in the game, and the field goal from Butker. It was so intense. It was a lot of drama put into it, and just you can't go wrong with how that game ended in overtime. But at the same time, you gotta have some support for this for the rules being tweaked because it didn't give Mahomes a chance. Now, I think it's something that it'll be talked about, as I said, but how much they'll talk about it, I don't know, because it was a matchup for the ages, and for Mahomes to not get the ball in overtime, I mean, the college route is not necessarily a bad thing, and for the NFL to try and differentiate itself a little bit, especially with stuff like, oh, you got to kick from the 13-yard line or 20-yard line to kick an extra point. I mean, it's stupid, really. I get, but it adds to the drama, you know. And as far as what this Super Bowl is going to be, it'll be interesting to say the least. But I do think a lot of people are getting really sick of New England at this point, and really, it infuriates a lot of people, which is why a lot of people will watch it because they want to see New England lose, but at the same time, they want to see other teams succeed. Now, as far as the Rams go, um, the two running back tandem will be the big reason if they were to win the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. It'll be the reason why they win it. The two running back set, I would say the front four on defense when you have Ndamukong Suh after 9 years of playing on mediocre to decent teams, finally getting his chance to shine in the biggest game. Aaron Donald too. I mean, for him to be this big sack guy and 20 and a half sacks for this year of 2018. Um, these guys really do deserve the chance. And I'll tell you what, they got a decent secondary too, but they got to be very, very careful with guys like Hogan, Edelman, Gronkowski. And the key to New England on offense will be needing to feed the ball to Sonny Michel or Sony Michel. Somebody tell me how you say his first name. Is it Sony or Sonny? Because I feel like it's Sonny Michel. But that defense will have to step up because there's been a lot of times where that defense has given up a lot of points, and it could happen against the Rams. So, I mean, those players need to really step it up. Both sides really on defense have to step it up. I'd say right now the advantage goes to the Rams, but it will be an interesting Super Bowl to look into because it's a rematch of the 2001 Super Bowl between them and the start of what I think is the tainted dynasty and legacy of New England, which I personally think is filled with a lot of asterisks and, quite frankly, probably one of the most controversial teams in the last 20 years or so. That's all I really have to say regarding the football games. So, there was this funny thing. There was this funny thing I read recently, and there was actually in the last week there was talk about a new Ghostbusters movie, and it's going to be done by Jason Reitman, who is the son of Father Ivan, who worked on the Ghostbusters 1 and 2 from the 80s, and it's supposed to be set within, from what I guess, the original universe, so from the first two movies. So it's supposed to come out next year, I think, in 2020, but they had a short, tiny teaser, but nothing really to show what they're doing. And it pissed off one of the 2016 people in SNL cast member Leslie Jones, who was pissed and called it like a dick move and basically acted as if it's a Trump thing to make the movie like the 80s ones. And it's like, that's not fair. We got to make it men because of the female-led movie. Okay, here is why. Here's why the 2016 movie was a bomb in theaters, even though it made 280 million. One, the budget was over 140 million. The first one back in 84 was like 30 million. We live in a society now where it's like popcorn flicks have to be like over 100 million or bigger for their budgets. And the thing about Ghostbusters, even though I think Ghostbusters as a franchise is pretty overrated, it's about the characters and the dynamics between the groups. I mean, reason why people love the first Ghostbusters is because of Venkman, Ray, Egon, and Winston, because they all have their own form of uniqueness to each other, and it plays well into being a comedy. And the guys surrounding them, whether it's Dana or Lewis or Janine, I mean, they add to the comedy. These guys are serious about their job, but at the same time, it's also goofy. Hearing some of the techno babble or the dry humor of Venkman, it's just those are reasons why people love those those first two movies. The 2016 movie, it feels like a stunt casting in a way because you got three SNL people, one that's not on it anymore since 2012, in the form of Jones, Kate McKinnon, who I believe had the most well-received performance of the four, and Kristen Wiig, who is pretty much hit and miss. And the other one that's not SNL but is hit and miss too is Melissa McCarthy. Which I remember when the backlash came well before the movie hit theaters. It was like a year before it came out, and a lot of the criticism I think was stemmed towards I think McCarthy, especially towards her weight. Which I mean, I would say she's fat, but she's not like overbearingly fat. But it comes off as like odd choices to cast for female-led Ghostbusters, and I don't think the route is going to be misogynistic or anything because the way the way Ghostbusters is, I mean, it's man, I'm just trying to find what the right word is for it is, but it's like there's a reason why the first two are celebrated, and it goes beyond just oh, let's just catch ghosts and all that. I mean, as I said, it's about the characters, and it just it's a it's not so much oh because it's female led we got to make it like the originals again. It's people's expectations were not high for the 2016 Ghostbusters, which it it was well received by critics, but it's not. But I think it's true more of a mixed reception than well regarded, and but it's fans who already had their perception already of what the movie is and decided not to see it, even though it made 280 million worldwide. I do believe it was a complete bomb in the theater. So the idea of maybe making another one with that cast, it's not going to happen. And even the criticism stemmed from how Dan Aykroyd, who wrote the first two Ghostbuster movies, felt about the budget and the way the movie was done. I mean, who knows what this 2020 movie is going to be? But I think it's too early to make criticism like what Jones is doing, and she should shut up. She should just shut up and wait for what the movie is. It's like the criticism right now in the last month on the Aladdin remake, which I'll actually get into now. A lot of the criticism of that now, Aladdin, stems from the fact that it doesn't look like the 1992 movie that was animated. And I love that movie, the animated Aladdin. It is probably my favorite of the classic Disney movies. And I'm not expecting this remake to be 100% identical to to the to the animated one, and I think a lot of people's criticism now is coming towards the genie, who was played by Will Smith, and the animated one played by the late Robin Williams, and he turned that role into probably one of the most legendary film roles ever for Disney, for film in general, and he paved the way for celebrities being in animated movies, which I mean it's amazing to think about. But the criticism is like, oh, he's not blue and yada yada yada. And it's like, first off, this is just screenshots of of the movie. It's probably still in editing. I mean, when a film wraps up, I mean, there's going to be lots of editing and final touches, and just to get a quick look at the teasers. I mean, they want to set you up, and then they would probably a little while later they give you a full-fledged trailer where they finally have the editing snappy and it feels like they got what they want and they got their special effects put in and all the stuff that they want. And for Smith to reassure the audience that he's going to be blue, I mean, I think he's trying to make sure that the fans don't get really pissed off, because I mean, it's hard to cast such a character like the genie, and because no doubt Smith is going to be compared to Williams all the way through. It's I think that's going to be unfair, because I mean, a lot of it for the animated one, it was mainly improv from Williams, who did his own stuff really, and Smith's more of like an actual actor. And really, the last time he was really into comedy, last time he was really doing comedies, was back when The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was still on the air. Though he has done some other stuff, like, say, Hitch, for example, but that was like almost 15 years ago. So he's not really a comedy guy now. He's been mainly doing action movies and dramas, going back all the way to Independence Day. Um, I don't know, just I think we get our expectations too high, personally, and I think this is what the reaction is over the last month regarding Aladdin, which I'm gonna be curious to see how these live action remakes go for, because they got like three down the road. Disney has, because they got the Dumbo one, which comes out in not too long. I believe in May is Aladdin. I think the Lion King is sometime this summer, and I might just see Aladdin and the Lion King. Definitely a few Disney movies that catch my mind, like Toy Story 4, because the first Toy Story is one of my all-time favorites, and probably my favorite of the Pixar Disney movies. And the trilogy is very good. It's well made, well thought, well acted. Each one visually got better and better. But it's going to be interesting to see where they go with this fourth one, because the third just seemed like the perfect ending to the trilogy. Now, I don't know what the deal is, but it seems like probably they'll be in some area where they meet some new characters, as is the case with the second and third movie. Well, really all three movies, but comes out in June, and I think I'll be wanting to see that its first week. But who knows? I mean, hopefully it's good. So there was this game I've been playing lately, and been playing it the last few days. It was actually free back in the summer, and only till now have I gotten a chance to try it. And it was Roundabout for the PlayStation 4. It came out on PC, PS Vita, and I believe it made it to the Xbox One, though I'm not 100% sure on that. It's interesting because it harkens back to an era where you saw live action cutscenes, and that was the case with a lot of games in the early to mid 90s. And the game is set up to be cheesy as hell, and that's what it is. It's a 70s style game where you play a limousine driver, Giorgio Manos, and you basically take people to destinations via spinning your limousine, which is the main gimmick of the game, which you have to time your turns and speed to get through some of this stuff quick without getting a scratch on the car. It actually has quite a bit of meat to it looking at some of it because it actually has 40 missions. Well, almost 40. But it you have to go through checkpoints, collect coins, not hit anything, and it's like playing like a game of Crazy Taxi, but with a style that is like GTA in a way with missions. And it reminds me quite a bit of GTA 5 because it's very much in that same manner with the challenges of a mission. And a lot of it is virtually the same here. There's nothing that is unique for each mission. It's get a multiplier, don't hit anything, collect all the coins and stuff. And as far like other stuff, like say with all the most of the GTA's, you can buy properties. And actually it's a bit like Vice City in San Andreas where you earn money from just buying the properties, and you can get the money after it's accumulated quite a bit. I mean, it's unique, but it also has some over the top stuff like being able to jump, which you'll acquire later on, and you can jump onto buildings, and it's ridiculous what they have for this game. I do think, however, my biggest complaint is going to be how they handled the design of the cities because I feel like it's way too tight, and personally, it just the design feels kind of cheap, and the requirements for to get 100%. I just don't think it feels too difficult, or maybe too tedious for that matter. But I don't know. It's not a bad game by any means. Just it's one of those games. It has a cool idea to it, but a bit of cheapness hurts it, I think. So it was it was a free game during the summer, so I'm not going to complain too much about it. But definitely going to try and get through the entire game because just the graphics. It's a PS2 budget type looking game, but at the same time, those live action cutscenes. I mean, it's ridiculously cheesy. And actually, same thing with the voice acting. That's like it's very like Sega CD and 3DO type stuff. um, but yeah, roundabout on PS4. And I suppose this will wrap up the episode of Geeks and Jocks, and I definitely will be recording a podcast either the day after the Super Bowl up or maybe upload the podcast after like the day after the Super Bowl or Tuesday. So it'll probably be either the 3rd or 4th of February. So and I'll probably have some episode ideas in mind, preferably talk about the Super Bowl a little bit and maybe talk about being on YouTube for the last 6 or so years. So I shall bid adieu, and with that, that was episode 8 of Geeks and Jocks. Hope to see you guys in the next podcast. Enjoy your day and stay warm.